Thanks for the birthday cake picture at the top, Leanne. That was fun.
Oh yeah, I want to share that.
There's only 8 candles on it, Jackie.
That's all I am. Dog ears.
Am I missing an agenda
Oh,
somewhere?
you know what, Carol's at the fair. Is she joining? She's not even joining us, right?
No, but I told her I would record.
Okay.
Do you see the agenda now?
Yes. Okay. So, Leanne, do you want to walk us through? Well, welcome everybody. First of all, thanks for being willing to change your time, and Vicki, thanks for being willing to step in during your staycation with the grandpuppy.
No problem.
That was the cutest picture last night of that. I shared that with the twins. Tell everyone what you did.
Yesterday was my other grandpuppy's birthday. He turned 1, and I made a birthday cake for him. All out of good stuff: whole wheat flour, shredded carrots, honey, peanut butter, and frosted it with peanut butter. It had a #1 candle on it, and I took his picture.
It was really cute.
Did you see my comment? I asked you if you was going to do Jackie a cake for her birthday.
Yes.
And everything that you said just now would be perfect in it.
Yeah.
Butter covered with peanut butter. Just leave the carrots out.
Natural peanut butter. Yeah, it was all good stuff in it. So, yeah.
Nice.
He
Just
liked it.
chocolate drizzle. But just 1 candle would be good for me too. Really a big one. All right. Lots of birthdays in August and September, guys. Wow. And Rogers was yesterday. And my son's is next week. So pretty cool. All right. Well, anyway, let's dig right in. So we got a report on our action items. Leanne, do you want to walk us through those?
Right. I'll share that screen. Just give me a second. Okay, last time I had asked far enough in advance on the updates, but we didn't really get that done before today's meeting. So if anyone wants to just jump in and give an update on their action item, and I can type up what the status is.
For the B5 approvers, I've been waiting to send in the second round of access updates at Access's request. So we had everybody left get that training done. As of yesterday, I'm still waiting on 7, I believe, to do the protecting institutional data. I told Jackie I would send her a list of those folks, and we would send out an email. So I haven't gotten that far yet this week, so I'll be sure to get that done in the morning.
Yeah, send me those names if you would by tomorrow or Thursday morning, and I'll get on them.
Okay. But yeah, as soon as we have them all set up, I know that everybody's been sending me back some updates on some of the job aid documents that we were working on for approvers, e-request and purchasing restrictions and those sorts of things. So once we get all that put back together, I'm probably going to go ahead and try to get something on the calendar for after farm science review, a webinar or Zoom meeting of some sort with the B5s, and we can record that and at least have a first, here's what we expect you to be looking at when you're approving, and to know about the approvals that you're doing. And then, we can continue with follow-up and training on more specific topics, in a kind of a newsletter format or something like that moving forward. But I would really like to get that on the calendar for, is anybody aware of anything going on end of September as far as large meetings that...
Well, farm science review, but it's not quite the end of September. If you're talking about the last week.
Right. Like the week after farm science review, which would be what, like the 24th, 6th-ish, something like that.
Let me look at mine real quick.
P-card deadline for involving fiscal reallocators.
Okay.
We've got the FCS National Conference in San Antonio.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many of your folks are actual FCS educators.
Right. I know that there's at least a couple, but again, I'm not expecting that we'll hit everyone. We can get even half to attend, and we can get a link out for the video to the others. I think that'd be.
Yeah, and I heard some good feedback on the last, on the job aids and also the last training that you offered for the blanket travel.
Okay, is that all, Jesse?
Yep.
Okay, website, I know that's in progress, so we'll skip that. Position descriptions for support staff here on the ops team.
Yeah, and so so I've gone through a catharsis on this. I'm thinking about that caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. That's what these position descriptions are going through this week, and here's why. I mentioned to you that we had two very generalized versions that I was about to give to HR. Our meeting with them is on the 14th, Rogers and mine. I want to look at those and figure out a way to help map them so that there's some specifics in a current state, future state, current state being what you did before we became the operations team, future state being a few of the items that aren't going to whip them out, for lack of a better term, that you're doing, but it doesn't dramatically change it so much that we have to start from scratch. But I do want the opportunity to be able to have some flexibility and additional compensation opportunities for this group comparative to other office associates broadly. So I'm reworking some of those, and I will let you guys know when those are available to be looked at. Again, I promise you, nothing that's on there is going to make you, you know, put out your resume, start crying, anything like that. It's all going to be very similar to what you're doing, but I want to make sure you get credit for what you're doing in a way that doesn't just read, you know, as a typical, for instance, office associate. And so I want to make sure that we've got it drafted well for that purpose.
Okay, is that it, Jackie?
Yes.
Okay, Jesse, Zoom with fiscal team in August.
I just saw that and was looking at the calendar. We should get that scheduled very soon. So Vicky, Sarah, Patty, looking at the week of September 17th. Looks like we have ops team meeting on Tuesday, area leader meeting Wednesday, so maybe possibly Thursday. That not to double up our meetings, we can get together and talk about that audit document. I will try to reach out to Ryan Arend, an internal audit, between now and then, so I can get his thoughts on what's there.
I was going to say, in the meantime, we've had a lot of natural occurring consequences in counties that are going to help you revise and
Right.
Keep in mind that week is farm science, so I haven't mentioned anything to Jeff yet, but that Wednesday of farm science, or the area leader Zoom is scheduled, but I don't know how many area leaders will be able. There will be a number who will be at farm science. Let me put it that way.
Okay, Jeff is on a Zoom presently with one of the area leaders, and but he'll be joining us, so I've made a note so we can talk about that.
Okay, cool.
And then I don't know how many of you are planning on going to Farm Science Review. I know, Cheryl, I think, you know, there's luncheon. Are you, which day are you doing the luncheon?
The only lunch there is on Tuesday.
The 19th?
The Tuesday, the 18th.
The 18th?
And I'm in our extension booth, or I'm with it the whole week. So I'm at Farm Science the whole time. So I'll have to miss this meeting if we're not rescheduling. I was looking
I'll
at
be at the, I'm going to be going on the 18th, but probably not the 19th and 20th.
Okay, so we may want to look at rescheduling our 18th Zoom at 10 o'clock as well.
Yeah, that's that luncheon's pretty much a requirement for a variety of us.
Mhm. Plus, that's probably the day, Jackie, that, and I think you ended up walking around with them last year, that the dean walks around and any of the other VIPs. So that usually happens after the lunch.
Right?
With
It's
all of
usually the
this,
hottest day of the year, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's the program.
do we want to look to the next week then to reschedule the bi-monthly, cancel the bi-monthly, or move it to another day, Monday or Friday of that week?
Let me look real quick. So we were talking about the next Friday. I'm actually I have on my calendar gone fishing. My my favorite aunt, who's about to turn 75, has been trying to get me to go out on a fishing boat with her for about 2 years, and that was the day she chose. So,
The 17th is tough because I'll be setting up for farm science, at least in the afternoon. If we did it in the morning, I could do it probably. But I can catch up later too.
Monday's fine with me.
I think that should work for me too. Let me see here. Yeah, I can do the morning.
Okay, I was pulling up Jeff's calendar real quick. Okay, he's got a bunch of area leader calls that day, but they don't start until the afternoon. So morning, would morning work, Jackie? 10 o'clock?
Yeah, that'd be fine. 10 o'clock. Yep.
Okay, so we'll move the 18th to the 17th at 10.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Jesse, do you want to keep the 20th for your
Yeah,
call?
I'll send out emails to make sure everybody's available then, and we'll plan on that for our review of that document.
Okay.
Backfill, I had talked to Terry Snoddy, I don't know, 6 weeks ago about doing the budget entry for that backfill, and I think that so the budget's been approved. We have that backfill money in the 5502 budget, I believe. I'm not necessarily concerned if we actually do a budget entry on those 5-7 orgs. I like that because it all rolls up into that D node anyway, regardless if it was in the 5502 or a 5-7, they all roll up into 5502 D node. So on their end, it would look like, they would see the 20,000 budget and then see that amount reduced from it. From my perspective, it's just as easy to keep track of, to know that, this 5-7 org is spending this much versus this org, and make sure that it goes over that. So I don't know that it's necessary that we do that budget entry for them, because they can just use that chart field and have the money come out of there, and that's fine. So, but I think we do need to send out another using that money, and Jackie, I'd probably need your help with coming up with the right language to use for that. I know that we've seen some HRAs come through already. I just saw one today for Putnam, which I need to follow up on, because it looks like they're just trying to put some of Norma's overtime on.
Do
you know anything about that?
It's not. part of our struggle is what we're trying to do. The system doesn't always like it. And so she's, if I'm remembering right, well, Patty, are you here?
Vicki and I have some information on that. We've talked with Carol. Jason is wanting to offer some additional funds to some staff for extra projects that they are taking on. One of them went through okay because they were an A&P person. But when Carol tried to do that for the biweekly, because we are not permitted to give bonuses, and that's what they were looking at as a bonus. The only way that he could pay Norma in this case was to offer her extra hours, which meant overtime, which meant what he really was hoping to pay, he ended up paying more because of salary and benefits.
Mhm.
So that's what she ran into when she was trying to give the extra funds to the bi-monthly employees.
Gotcha.
So I feel like we need to work within the system to find an exception to that, because that's not the purpose of those hours or those dollars, but that's how we're going to have to do it currently.
And she was saying something even about having to do something with every pay period that person puts in. She has to do an HRA.
Is the intent that she would be working above and beyond, or is the intent that she would just be that we could reduce county dollars for her? I mean,
So is she part-time? Is that what we're understanding? She's 20, what is she?
No, I think Norma's full-time.
Oh, is
She's
she full-time?
full-time. She works for 2 different counties.
which that's another thing. I think that we had kind of an MOU agreement, and we're doing some transfers between those counties at some point in time. I've been kind of out of the loop on that since I haven't done journal entries for a while. I assume the business office is still processing something for them. We should really have that structured in the HR system. You know, if she's doing half and half, Putnam, Allen, or Van Wert, Putnam, maybe. That's reflected there on the actual payroll versus doing a transfer. But that's another conversation.
Yeah, Carol being at the fair, I know that she was explaining to Vicki Myers and myself that this was quite a convoluted process to get done what Jason wanted to do, and that she has to do these HRAs once a month with each pay period.
Yeah, it's certainly not an optimal situation. So she's already 40 hours and they're trying to get her how many more hours? I didn't realize she was 40 hours a week already.
All I know is that he was trying to pay her extra, which was in effect a bonus.
Gotcha.
So Carol has more of the specifics.
I'll reach out to that. HRA is on my work list for approval, so I'll reach out to Carol tomorrow and.
Okay, she's at the county fair, so.
Gotcha. So I'm sure it can wait till next week.
Yeah, I know she's got it on her work list for you. So as soon as the fair's over, if you guys could touch.
Not the only HRA that's been on my list for more than a week. So I don't like it, but it happens.
Well, and when we figure this out, we need to. I know Vicki Snyder, I believe, was putting together. Wasn't it Vicki who was putting together a matrix about the backfill and the approaches and things like that? Because we want to be able to get through this process more quickly and easily when whatever they choose is replicated in another county.
Okay, yeah, if Jesse, you could talk with Carol, and then we can talk as an HR team in case there's any other area leaders that's wanting to do something similar, so Vicki Myers and myself know how to do them the proper way. Okay, Carol, I think this one is complete. She made the folders in Buckeye Box for us to copy the webpage documents. I know that's a
Yeah,
lot of
I just want to
project.
go back through that and make a couple tweaks, but that I haven't gotten to that.
Okay, now is this for the webpage? This is just for the webpage.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about the webpage. You're right.
Okay, the next one is Jackie.
I think they're working great for me. You know, there's probably a variety of you where I actually got something that was on your to-do list for me done because I'm looking at those, highlighting them, printing them out, and trying to get actions accomplished. So it's been helpful for me. I do notice that, again, I want to remind everybody, you don't have to put everything on there. It's kind of your key. Here's the big things I want to get done this week, and that you'd like to have on my radar, not necessarily everything. So, you know, balance that. But it's been helpful for me. How time consuming or frustrating has it been on your end?
I haven't even had a chance to think about mine this week, to be honest.
I saw that.
I pulled it up and thought, oh my gosh, I'll get to that next. I'll get to that next. And next hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, and just, I mean, clearly I recognize that part of what kept you guys from getting that done was what I threw on you yesterday. So,
Yeah.
I forgot about last week, so I did mine on the holidays. So that's the only reason I got done.
So,
Yeah, I
Jesse,
kind
have
of,
you seen these?
What's that?
Jesse, have you seen a copy of the dashboard yet?
No, I haven't. don't know if I
Carol,
missed an email or
sorry,
what.
Leanne, do you wanna, can you just share that on your screen real quick?
yeah, I actually have mine up because I was looking at mine to see what I was supposed to be doing this week, and I actually don't mind the dashboard because it helps me to I keep a to-do list anyhow, and maybe I'm one of those ones that is keeping too much information, but it does help me to, well, are you seeing it? Because it's not.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, because it's helping me to keep on task.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the goal on it. And what's helpful too is if you look in the lower right-hand corner where it says, Jackie's going to do this, or Jackie and Jesse. So that helps me, you know, pay attention to those things where I'm like, oh, that, you know, that got bumped. I need to bring it back into my main area. So Jesse, what we were doing is I'm having everybody on the operations team. I haven't talked to you about this at all, but I use this in consulting where it just has the activities, really the big ones, not every single thing that you do, on the left-hand side. And then once it's completed, flip it to black so that as it gets, you know, completed, we see where we're at. Then the activity is scheduled for the next week so we can kind of get a little bit of view down the road. Additional information is those things that might be a constraint or an obstacle to getting something done, or other things we need, like farm science review, for instance. You know, it might get popped in there so we know we're not going to be able to do something on whatever days. And then the special issues or radar are things to either think about for what's coming up in the future. So this is where we want to be able to be proactive about different things, like, you know, for instance, fall visits are going to start popping on here soon. And then also, if there's anything that you want to, you know, highlight that needs to be done by, in this instance, me, and then what are the resources or information you need from me or others. And then a lot of people have actually put things in that as well. And for me, when I look at this on a Monday, then when I'm calling and talking to everybody, I don't have to be like, okay, what are you working on this week? And then you have to think about it. It's already there. I've looked at it. I see how I can kind of interface, and then I have a good feel for what our entire team is working on at any one point in time. So I found it to be very helpful so far.
Great.
Okay, let me go back to the other.
The one thing I like about it, I haven't put mine in for this week because we were like with the stuff, but if we forget and we're at the end and you call us, you do have the next week's stuff. So you say, okay, have you worked on this? Have you worked on that? So it's not like just 1 week's time. It's giving you an overall of what would have been that week if you hadn't had a chance to go in and do it. So that part I'd like to kind of remind myself too, oh yeah, I got to do that.
And I think it's helpful for us. I feel like this with the educators too. You know, you get in accounting and somebody's working on 4-H and they don't know what A&R is doing or whatever. I think you guys, I would encourage you to look at each other's as well to get a good feel for what others are working on, so that if there's something that you can say, hey, I got extra time this week, I saw you were working on whatever, you know, we can collaborate in that way as well. All right, so any haters? Anybody want to hate on it? That's completely fine. Now's your time.
It's just remembering to do it. I know Vicky's struggle. She's not here Friday, and making sure to do it either Friday or early Monday.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for giving that a chance, and I'd like to keep it in place for at least September, and then we can revisit again to see.
Okay, the next one was to determine about sharing the hiring aides with the hiring stewards, but do we want to pass this up and discuss, because I know you had mentioned to me about maybe a retreat for the ops team to work on stewardship planning.
Yeah, and I think yes, yep. For this one in particular, though, I just want to talk with Jeff about when we might have time on our calendar to do a quick, here's what I was thinking with this one. I was trying to figure out whether the area leaders thought it would be useful for them to go and talk to their own hiring stewards in their areas, in their counties, to determine how they want to approach that in each county. And or would it make sense for Jeff and I to do like a 1-hour training for hiring stewards by Zoom, which is what I think I want to do. I want to do that and then follow it up with area leaders talking to them about what that looks like in each of their counties when they see them. I also wanted to, I feel like I put the brakes on this a little bit because I got a bit of pushback recently from HR about their stewards and what they do and why are we moving so quickly, and I think a few of them felt like they didn't know what was going on. So I know that wasn't true of Tony and Kate, right? Because we've been working pretty closely with them. But I wanted to take a chance to share some of these things on the 14th too with Amy and potentially Elaine, but also Brandy. And Elaine, just by the way, she spells it Elayn.
Yeah.
So the training would follow after that. I think it's just going to be a 1-hour Zoom.
Okay. Fiscal team, is this the job aids that you're discussing then with Jesse?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Does that include the T-number job aid being tweaked with the additional information?
I think that was a little separate. We were going to make sure that that was updated for the website. I think it's probably we can utilize that newsletter function on the website. I would kind of like to do what Cindy used to do with a monthly, here's a topic, reminders on things that are going on, new topics coming up, and also choose topics to go a little in depth on. And I think travel could be one of those on one of the first ones we do because it's fresh in everybody's minds and needs some more info. So
can I get a woot woot on that?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be very interested in having that kind of initiated. And I don't know, again, just be thinking about whether that makes sense to do it on a, did she do it like a monthly update?
She did typically monthly. It didn't happen every month. I'd say probably on average 9 or 10 a year.
Yeah.
Some months just didn't have much content, so she would combine, fall and winter months in particular when not a whole lot was going on. So.
I know when going back to reference the travel information, because it was sent a couple of times, that once we get the web page up, it will be helpful to have the final document there, because I'm always worried about referring back to my email and then having the most current.
Yeah.
And then thinking on the website, the way to most effectively house that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So originally when you said that, I was thinking, gosh, it'd be really cool to have the business office updates be a link on the left-hand side where people could just go click on it and find it. But then as you're organizing within topics, that searchable feature for being able to pull out whatever. So just always keeping that in mind. How do we, after they've seen it one time, make it easy for them to find and access, and how can we use the website effectively for that?
And my part of my struggle with that is making sure we aren't duplicating stuff that's on fiscal website, but at the same time being able to point folks to those resources from our site, I think is important, so that they aren't search necessarily on both. If we make ours landing page and make those references on the finance site easily available, that's because most of the extension stuff from the finance site is coming over to our site, and we're just taking the finance site altogether. And they've been talking about removing a lot of the training documents and job aids that are there for two reasons. I don't think that the finance leadership is real keen on being trainers like the old business office, and then plus things are just starting to get a little outdated. Like 90% of the information is correct, but there are just things that didn't get updated as little changes happened, and all of those old documents still reference Cindy and Brian because they were PDFs that we went and edit and all that. So I know. I told them before they actually delete anything, I'm going to pull off and make, have copies on my drive to use as a starting point for future documents if they decide to take something off and we feel like there's still a need for it for us.
Yeah. If we could archive those right away, because I think there are still some of those things that make a lot of sense, especially the tools, right, for calculating positions, benefits, cost share, all those types of things that they may not see as useful, and they might immediately say, what's this? Let's get rid of it. Even the release time video by Brian was really good with his tool. I think when we get to the point, and I know everybody's kind of chomping at the bit, so I want to, we'll get to the webpage here in a minute, but it is going to be a little bit of time still for us to open that up for the assistance from this group for updating and adding, maybe another couple of weeks. But once that's done, just know that we've got a lot of folks here who can continue to go through and pay attention to certain files so that they don't become dated. So, Cheryl, with the website, if Jesse did it through a blog, that would certainly be searchable, especially if those things are highlighting what already exists somewhere else and points them back to, like finance page. Is that the same, would the same be true of a newsletter feature in this environment?
Well, a blog would not actually be part of our website. A blog is a u.osu WordPress site.
Right, but we would have a link to it in our
we could have a link to it. I think you can search for it. It's just technically, not part of the website. So if you were on our website and running a search for key terms, it's not going to find what's in the blog. If they were in the blog, I think they can search for key terms, and they can search for the same key terms on our site, but they don't interchange. They relate. The same as I just had like I had Michelle Gaston take down the old Central Region blog because you can't even redirect a blog to a website. You can't forward things, or you can't like forward the URL. You can only disable a URL or create a new link. A newsletter, using a newsletter function feature would be completely searchable on the website because it sits within the website. Can search within PDFs as well. It's just not as easy, obviously. What Jesse said is absolutely right, though. We do not want to have duplicate information, and it's hard with the fiscal stuff for sure. And Jesse's the one to figure out, where it should sit on our page versus the finance office page or whatever. But we definitely don't want duplicate information. Mm-hmm. So it may have to be some things that are links that it's, if you need, for example, I'm making stuff up, Jesse, but if it's the mileage form, and this isn't, you click on it and it takes you to the mileage form. Cindy Buxton beat that into my head with going to university fiscal too. So some of what Jesse's posting will actually probably not even be owned by CFAES. It's owned by the university.
Right. And I think that's all of our intent and approach is to link to those existing resources. Right. Yeah. So
I think the best way to do it would be within a newsletter, or the other reality is you can just have a running page. I mean, if it can be part of our news, we can make news items, or Jesse can have just a landing page that he adds the latest 2 or 3 reminders, or if it's going to be the same info that's updated multiple times over the course of a year, I wouldn't bury it in a newsletter. I would make it a page. So whatever that is, Jesse, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that'd be more like having, like the 4-H, the counties have done that with 4-H type stuff. Like we link back to the Family Guide as a link, but when they have camp forms or fair forms, they make a spot on a landing page for it and then change what documents are posted there or change the links back out. They don't put it in a newsletter because someone's always going to be looking for it. A newsletter is truly news. So that's the other thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. And at some point, we don't have to.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to say, we don't have to solve all the world's problems today, but one of the things that I was thinking of when you said that, Cheryl, was, is there a way for him to do something that's kind of the new thing that sits up at the top for a certain amount of time, whenever? And then if there was something that, I was just thinking like our FAQs, instead of it being a subtopic that's about stewardship, and then there's a subtopic on area leaders, and then there's a subtopic on something else. You know how you had that accordion? I didn't know if the accordion could be used in a way where whatever the new content is, you can link the new content to then show up under the accordion.
That's not how the accordion works. Okay. No, I don't think I can finagle, but that's why I was saying a landing page, Jesse can go in and put the newest info on the top and rearrange it. Adding news items does the same thing. The latest news item you add is what goes to the top, but then everything starts getting shoved down. So we can look at how to do that. Some of it might have to be manual. It doesn't necessarily happen automatically, Jackie, except for like an actual news.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking is each time he does something, it's usually going to be 4 or 5 topics. It's not going to be one topic, right? And so then you'd have to move it out of the one document that had the 5 topics, whatever that document looks like on the webpage, and then put it into sub areas. But again, we don't have to decide that.
Well, and maybe you and Jesse and I can chat about that, because the other thing is you can make sections that if he knows it's going to be the same, you're updating 3 or 4 things, but it's the same dozen things overall, we can figure out how to manually, some of it might be easier to manually do. We'll figure out how to do it. I have not updated an accordion style, but I will, Jackie, once we do some of our FAQ stuff. I don't think I can manipulate it, but I'll learn. I haven't done it, but I'll learn more after you and I are supposed to talk tomorrow about FAQs for Design Next. So I can maybe experiment with it when I update those, and that will tell us for some of Jesse's info too.
Sounds good.
Okay.
This item for the fiscal team, I think this was completed yesterday with the pivot table and the IT cost for the 4-year average.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was completed, but this part here was talking about instructions for digging into the IT costs over the 4-year period. Matt Yoder ran that IT cost for us that you guys used this morning to get out to the world, but we are getting some individual requests from some counties to say, can you dig in a little deeper to my 2016 numbers? So I didn't know, Sarah and Jesse, I both sent that at both of you this morning. I thought it could be gained from the pivot table like we did before. So if there's an easy way of doing that, Jesse, maybe just share that with your fiscal team. And then if somebody from your area calls you and wants, so for instance, Clifton Martin said, hey, you gave us the breakdown of everything we were charged for in 17. I'd like to know what that breakdown was for 16. In those cases, because they usually have an outlier year, we could just go back into that pivot table if we showed everybody how to pull all the IT costs for that year. Then each area could take their own calls instead of it all going back to you.
Yeah, when I put that together for Clifton tomorrow, I'll try to make it so it's a functional tool that we can just change the org on and get the data.
That'd be great. And I know we only asked for 16, but if we could do it for all 4 years and make it a functional tool that pulls all 4 years in, then whatever anybody needs, it'll be, I think, a quick turnaround for them. Thank you.
Okay, adding the ADs to the listserv. I have still to do that. It's on my to-do list, so to be completed.
Hey, I want to do a woo-woo. Leanne had something on her to-do list, and it wasn't just me saying I didn't get
to. Yeah. Support team reviewing web pages. I can start by saying that I'm over halfway with the Southeast Region page, copying things over. I was working on that last week when Vicki was doing P-card, and we need to finish that up. And then a lot of Central Region web pages was duplication of what we had, but we need to take a quick look at Central Region before it comes down to.
I can't remember. We said we'd look at everything before today. Did we set a deadline for pulling everything off? Should we say the end of this month? Is that realistic? Because I need to go in and look at them myself. I mean, I haven't looked at stuff there, but.
I think that we were talking about having everything copied by today's meeting, but it just did not happen. So the end of the month would be great.
Okay, let's aim for that, and I'll do the same. I'll look at stuff before then, and we can go from there.
Yeah, because I was supposed to do the Southwest, and with the reallocation and stuff, there's no way I could have gotten to it. So
I know, time flies. So, okay. So if you guys pull stuff off by, or let's,
September 30th? Is that a weekend?
Yeah, that's a Sunday. So let's say by, just say by September 30, because then we can talk after that.
Okay.
That'll work, because our next ops team meeting after that would be the October 3rd. So I can just double check with you guys then if I have any questions on stuff. That's what I'll aim for my end.
Okay. Cheryl, your item was next about webpage items.
And I have all of those items done. I added the area leader photos in the gallery. It was doing something funny with the size of things, so I need to check with
that was my feedback on it. If there's a way that we could have all of them the same size and then just one page where you scroll down and see everybody.
I'm not sure how I can do it on one page. The default is 12 on a page, so I'm not sure what's happening behind the scenes with the sizes. It was varying based on the photo size, so that's on my list to ask Eric about. And usually there wasn't much we could do about the default in terms of seeing, but that'd still be half and half. The reason it has the block O in the gallery is because the first picture galleries are interesting. The first picture you upload is the picture that's supposed to be the landing picture. So I didn't want any one person's picture. So the block O is the default, but it was showing me different default pictures when I brought it up. And then you have to go in the order that they're put in, so that's why I put placeholders for some people, because otherwise I'd have to re-enter all 24 when I get the news. So the pictures that we have are up. If we didn't have a photo from the retreat, it says photo coming or
I
whatever.
did take a picture of Joyce Schreiner that I need to get to you
Okay.
all. A picture of
Perfect.
her.
Well, however we want to flip out the rest of them, we can ask them for headshots. I've not done that or anything, of course. Sarah and I have the map that Sarah had given me. We had tweaked that. That's uploaded. I fixed the ops staff info. I had the web team change the address and the phone number at the bottom of the home page. I added everyone's picture except Jesse is the only one whose picture we don't have, I think, on there. So yeah, we were missing, Jesse's we don't have a headshot for Jesse. And then we were missing only the 4, and now it would be 3 area leader photos.
So we're going to have to, we've got more pictures of the special ops team, but we're going to have to take the one off of our fun jerseys because I don't want it to be our, I love it, but I don't think it's the appropriate one to have on there for us.
I actually put it on there so I could ask you about it. That's what the size and shape it is. If we don't have it, no picture appears. So that's kind of why it was there.
We have 2 weeks before we're going to make this live anyway, before we give people the address to this.
Are you waiting 2 full weeks?
Yeah. I need time. Jesse needs full time too. And I can explain why when we get to the website discussion.
Okay, so I can change out that picture, but that's why it's there, was so you would see it and I would remember to ask you about it. So I can change it.
It's a great picture though, guys. We should have one in each of our offices. It's where we have our special ops t-shirts on and we're doing the whole,
We used to, I don't know that Bonnie used it for this training, but we used to do just a little, literally a barn of chickens because we were just running around chickens with our head cut off. That was our training picture.
We need squirrels.
Oh,
Yes.
Good idea. Or cats,
Not chickens, not chickens.
Jeff's here. Sorry, Jeff.
I got pretty cows pictures. You want, or sheep?
Perfect.
Okay, Jesse's still working on the web pages, as is Jeff.
Yes. We got, I got a bunch of, I just took the HTML from the finance site and basically copied it over the relevant sections onto our page. Still downloading actual documents to upload to our, the portal's called. And then I'll remove, as I'm downloading those documents, I want to remove them from the finance, make sure that there's no duplication there.
Okay. Yeah, because the finance page obviously isn't going away, but yeah, any document needs to go in that IMCE folder.
Yeah.
If you have to, until you move stuff, you can make a live link, obviously, to the finance site. I did already. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask a quick question. On the finance site, when I go into the extension and about, it's no longer there, that and the HR one. So then are they not going to ever go back to there?
Correct. We took them off of there.
Okay.
So they went directly to those, but that's the goal. I had removed both of those so that the link to each of them is on the ops site.
Okay.
Do you want to
check the HR one?
I know that we're kind of jumping around, but we are going pretty deep into the webpage. So can we just maybe keep on that topic? And Leanne, can you unshare your screen? I'm going to share the website for a second. And so this is what's here right now for the extension finance. Are you guys seeing it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's odd. There was more in there this morning, I thought.
Hit refresh.
Oh, you know what? I've been off it for a while. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, it's once you save, it's there. So if it's not showing up,
That's interesting.
I haven't looked at the site today, so I haven't.
You're on the finance page. Is that where you meant to be, Jackie? Not on the
I
home
thought I was
page?
on the extension operations page.
You are, but you're on the
And then I
finance
hit
tab.
extension finance.
Yeah, but that's all it's showing.
I thought there was content there this morning, Jess. Wasn't there?
I did not have any content on the landing page yet.
Oh, okay, okay. So maybe I already jumped
the-
into this one. Okay. So
Yeah,
just
just
real
on the-
quickly, this is why I'm not making it live right now, Cheryl. We've got some things to clean up. When we click on the extension 4-H development policy, by the way, it jumps to our regular extension policies and procedure handbook, as does this link, as does the link on our about operations page. So we actually have extension policies and procedures handbook in 3 locations right now.
Well, I put, because if you know you want folks to go directly to the extension policy and procedures handbook, you make it a live link, you make a direct link. So that's why I put it under about operations.
No, that's fine. So
We don't need it in 3 places.
right. So here's what I'm saying. So we're going to clean up this link here and get rid of it. This extension 4-H development policy and procedures handbook for employees. I'm not quite sure what that was supposed to be, but it's currently linking to just the extension policies and procedure handbook.
Where did you even get that, Jackie?
So I pulled these off the CFAS finance site. I just
Oh,
took it's off the policies tab, and I just straight up copied and pasted it
okay.
as a landing starting spot.
Just
And I want to
delete
call
it.
this, and I want to call this extension policies and procedures because they're not all policies.
And and I don't know if the extension finance tab is the right place for that to land either.
Right, I think that needs to land. So this is the other part of why I'm not ready to make this go live. I actually, Cheryl, am thinking about making performance management underneath the parent tab of extension policies and procedures.
That's however you want to do it. I can move it for you. Or
And then the handbook would go there, and then and the handbook just needs cleaned up anyway. Like I'm
So
not
they-
really ready.
So the handbook, Jackie, what we will do is we won't put that, it shouldn't be a separate, I don't think. You probably don't want it as a separate, I'm pointing like you can see me pointing at the screen. What we can do is we can, just like I put the link under about operations, the link could show up in the left menu. So when you scroll down, policy and procedures handbook, if you click on it, it goes right back out to the state website. If that's what you're wanting under the other, that link can be parented under extension policies and procedures. We don't need it to sit on the landing page. We can have it so that it appears directly in the left menu. So that otherwise, you can go 2 steps for that.
Right. What I'm suggesting is I have to figure out, for instance, where we have performance management. Performance management to me doesn't merit having its own tab in operations, right? It's one part of doing operations. And so whether that's under processes, extension processes, or I don't know what to call it yet, but I don't want it getting confused with all the junk that's currently falling into this handbook that's going to be completely revised. So I guess my point is what I was thinking about doing, and we don't have to again decide this today, but I was thinking about having a tab called extension policies and procedures, which could be, again, listed over here on the left, but then it needs to be, what I want to do is take what's relevant still in the handbook and move it into the right section instead of it just being us having a link to a mostly outdated handbook right now.
Well, here's the thing. When we go live tomorrow, this is findable. So it is actually, like you're talking about live, you're talking about not publicizing it, but this is a live document. If someone goes and searches, they will find, like if they search on Google for extension policies and procedures, it will give them, right at the moment, it will take them to where the link sits on the state site. And then
we can leave that there for now is what I'm saying.
It is there. I'm just saying they will find both. This is, once we launch tomorrow, this is findable via Google and anyone to search.
So what I want to do is take off any links to the extension policies and procedure handbook right now from the operations page.
Okay. All right.
Because-
Then I'll remove it. I've got to remove it, not just from this page. I need to remove
Well,
it.
I think it can stay, I'm sorry, it can stay in the about operations part, but it's already showing up in 3 places. It's showing up here and here. Are you seeing where my cursor is?
Yeah. So
And-
we can.
And then I'll figure out later what to do here, but this may become part of policies and procedures as opposed to something called performance management. Well, this is why I want time to think about it, but that's fine.
Well, you can still, I mean, yeah, you can still think about it. We need to remove them. Whatever I do has to be done basically by the end of today.
Okay.
Because we got to be out of it.
What I'd like done today is to get rid of this link that I'm pointing at.
Mm-hmm.
The one below it for 4-H youth development, because as I click on that, it just goes back to this.
Yeah, that was a default that probably had something different long ago on the business side, and when Jesse copied it, that's what we.
Okay, so let's just get rid of that link.
Okay, I'll remove both from that extension policies page.
And then the only thing that should be, maybe this is extension fiscal policies is what this becomes,
Yeah.
not extension policies.
Okay.
Or extension fiscal policies and procedures. Like everything's not a policy, and I hate to belabor that, but Elaine is all over me for that. I shouldn't say it like that. And Jesse, I hope I didn't say it loud enough to go through your doors over there. But I want to be clear that I am very supportive of us not duplicating policy on any of these and who owns the policy. We're talking to people about how to, within the context of extension, follow policy and procedure. And then if there is a specific extension policy, then we would identify that particularly. So,
Jackie, does the word guidelines is that better for you to replace
No.
both policy and procedures?
no.
Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better word too.
I know.
so that
The
we're
problem
not
is,
embarrassing, but-
I don't want to get into it today, but we have
Yeah.
different definitions for policies, for procedures, for best practices, and for guidelines. And I don't want all 4 names written here. I think that just is too much worry about definitions. But I think if we say policies and procedures, that'll be fine.
And maybe we reverse the title eventually when you put it back up. Maybe it's procedures and policies or something
Well, I
like
might
that.
just do extension operating procedures. I don't know yet. Again,
Okay.
we have to figure out what all of our content is to figure out. So,
Right.
okay. So anyway, I didn't
We'll
mean for
fix
this
the
to go this
page. We'll go
long,
from
but,
there.
So then under operations, as Cheryl was saying, just to give you guys a quick view, this picture, I love it, but we can't have that one up there, so we're gonna switch that out.
I'll change.
We've got everybody's thing here. We've got the area leaders. What we were saying is all of this is here. She's updated the map. I have to say, I guess I'm looking for feedback, guys, as to whether the map's kind of busy now with the names on it and whether it makes sense to keep it this way or if it makes more sense to put the clean one back up and then put the contact list on there like we had that page 2.
Clean it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can fix it back to the other one.
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept, but it just came out kind of, and then the photo gallery.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Another one that was like different, the colors being red, green, and gray, and with the name of the leaders on it, and it wasn't as bad because it didn't have all the colors in there. But it had like the red, the green, and gray separately, but then each area leader had their own, you know what I mean? It was like that.
Yeah, that's the one I'll put back. That's the general one, Patty.
Yeah, I
So,
like that one.
Yeah, I'll put that one back. We just had talked about sometimes you don't know till you sit there and look at
You
it.
see it. And I think that's a helpful internal document. I just think externally we want the clean one.
Right.
And then with the area leaders, this is what Cheryl was talking about. It's kind of different sizing it, different places. And I don't know, at some point we might even have them do a little bio. So maybe that gets put back in a table with their picture and a bio next to it. I don't know.
Jackie, when you click on a picture, I don't know why Bruce isn't showing, Bruce Clevenger, click on it. There actually are extended captions that if you typed it in, it would have even a couple sentences. So we can put something within the gallery pictures too. It can't be like some long extended bio like the whole operations team page, but we can put extended captions on these so that when someone clicks on it, they'd have more information about each person.
So what was interesting to me was when I hit edit on this, and we had all 25, all 24. Why would was I thinking there was an extra? Oh, there's a base page in there. Okay. It actually had them all the same size, and it had them all fit on one page.
It's something in the formatting, Jackie.
Thing.
There's an error behind the scenes. I don't know what it is, but yeah, and you can't, like, Bruce is off this page, and I'm not sure why. And I never had them all on just one page, but I'm not sure why that's there. That is not correct with him. It's just doing something funny.
We'll clean it up.
He fills all London Northwest anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, it's something with the formatting, and I don't know what's going on. But you can't edit. If you go in and hit edit on the area leader page, you will not be editing each individual person's picture. It requires going into each person. So yeah, whoever accesses this page, you can't edit area leaders as a whole and affect any of the individual ones.
Okay, so we'll work on prettifying it.
Well, that's not even me. That's the developer. So
no, I get it. Okay. I'm not. Yep. So just to let you guys know, I changed the order of these, and I'm probably likely to change it one more time. If I moved news and events toward the end, I moved finance first because I think a lot of people are going to be coming for the finance piece. I'll probably, when we rename this policies and procedures, we'll move that after finance and put HR to the end, because it's not our HR, it's a link to HR really, right? Which a lot of people want to get to, but that's not really why operations exists. So I want to keep the functions of operation first. So there's that. And then just again, going in and doing some additional cleaning. So this is where it's at right now. And we will do an update here soon.
Just know that you can't eliminate news or events pages because
we don't want to.
Right, or bury them under something. And I would, once you start publicizing, we don't want to move too many of the tabs around because that starts.
I hear you. I just wanted to get them in an order that made sense.
Right. The news page, that is what feeds the front, and it's, I don't know if you got it, if somebody messed with it or not, but for some reason it's showing Jackie first now. Maybe it finally.
I did. I changed that because we haven't announced any of these things yet. And so to me, it didn't matter what order it was in. It just made more sense to talk about the operations unit and then introduce the director and the assistant director. So
I couldn't get it to change is what I mean. So I wasn't sure how you did. That's all I was meaning, as I had been trying to get you first and Jeff.
I just did a sticky like you taught me. You taught me that.
Well, I did it too, and I think you overrode what I did. So,
all right. So anyway, and then the other thing is I want to take these. I want to take where Norma's at, and I want to make these. One of them would have our operations team. One would have maybe a focus on the extension finance part with an introduction to Jesse, and then one would have our area leaders on it. We'll get rid of Norma. She's great, but she's not really relevant to operations.
Norma is a placeholder because same deal.
No, I know.
Well, what I'm just saying is, what my plans are. Norma, right. Norma goes out too. So what we'll need to do is just when you do the read more, you have to build the inside page first. If it's not built before you can add this, that's all I'm telling you is process.
Okay. So you and I can talk a bit more about this tomorrow when you and I meet. And I just want to let people know the reason I don't want to announce that this is available this week is because I've got other bigger things on my plate, and then my birthday. And then next week is when I'm planning on getting some pieces done. I know, Jesse, there's a few things that you want to tweak on your part too before we announce it to the world. So my guess is by September 14th, we'd be in pretty good position to maybe that next Monday we start out with something pretty exciting to share with people and get it going. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Oh, cool. After today, Jackie, we need to stay out of it until they go live, until they launch tomorrow. So we can't technically say noon tomorrow, but I need to go in and have Eric fix that photo gallery and stuff in the morning, and he needs to have us not mess with it. So we can't add before it's launched.
Just gonna stay away from it until Friday.
Okay. I'll go in and fix those other couple things, and then once they launch it, we should be good to go.
And they know when they launch it, they're not announcing it to anybody, right?
No, they don't. It's just there's a particular launch when once you pick the launch date, the university, it's all a massive thing across the university at 3:00 when we launch. So we just have to stay out. But yeah, they don't do an announcement for us, so we're good there. Cool. Making progress.
That was the website update. Leanne, are you still there?
Yes. My camera was flickering again. I redid it to another port and I don't know what's going on, so you don't have to look at me. I'll go back and share the document it was on. I think we were here to non-AMCP letters and HRAs.
Yeah, non-AMCP letters, just real quick, I was going to pull my notes up. We submitted, as a recollection, people who were not eligible for an AMCP merit increase. We wanted to make sure nobody got lost, so we did a variety of things to ensure that we caught everybody, including Jesse was looking at some reports, Brandy and I were, Vicki had done a nice job, Vicki Myers, of going in and identifying initially through the calibration who was missing. I went back through and we got Callie Eberhardt from Harrison County. Where did it go? All right, hold on, it just went away. It was in front of me a second ago. Here we go. Patty Cook from Cuyahoga, Sally Hennessy and Julie Mackey from Lorraine, Sarah Jackson from Allen, Shannon Smith from Wood, Kyle White from Medina, Andy Hudak from Whitewood, Tony Staubach from Hamilton, and Carol Wagner from Hardin. Those were folks that weren't showing up on the original AMCP list. There's only one that's still being fixed. They gave me 2 letters for Carol last week, so we're getting that fixed. We're not quite sure why that went on. And then I talked with Amy Burns to make sure that we've got a running list of things we want to fix as it relates to the spreadsheet and the process for AMCP and non-AMCP. So that one tab that was missing this year, which would have been the non-eligible that would have caught all these in the past, is being added back in. So I feel like that was a win.
Yay.
There'll be a post-AMCP process. I don't want to call it a task force because that's been promised to never happen, but at least in conversations.
That will be helpful.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for working hard to make sure nobody got missed.
And
HR is doing the HRAs and that for those, right?
Yeah, HR is handling that. The letters should have gone out. And I know that we had a bit of a mix-up with the area leader letters, for instance, that didn't have their stipends included. So if anybody hears any frustration from that, redirect them back to Jeff, if you would.
I think I got it handled, and they're not going to be included.
Okay. So more conversations for next year.
Yep.
Just real quick, the IT transformation update, the other piece about that. So obviously the charges went out. The new charges, I've gotten some feedback from folks that were happy that they liked where they landed. I'm still hearing from the folks that are now realizing that theirs is more. And that's why Fiscal might be getting some contacts. And then I'm also putting out an IT fax FAQ from Eric that I revamped with extension notes. That should go out probably tomorrow. I'm also in the process of working with OCIO to identify the counties that have county commissioners for phone and internet, and I'm prioritizing those based on a variety of factors. Jeff, I'm going to share that with you and with the area leaders to say who I prioritized and see if they've got any feedback that suggests that they should advocate for somebody else to be moved to the top of that list or who wants to wait.
Excellent.
It sounds like on that topic, business office met with OCIO on Friday, I believe, because originally OCIO said that they did not want to pay the invoices that where the commissioners were invoicing the office for the phone charges in that building that they were, in the county. So some counties, that cost is just paid by the commissioners and not pushed back on the county to reimburse the commissioners. In other counties, it's they actually do invoices for that. And OCIO had told us that they weren't going to pay it, that the PO, and then it would get reimbursed by OCIO at the end of the fiscal year for those things that we had paid. Now it sounds like OCIO was just confused about how those invoices were coming in. They thought it was kind of a lump sum thing, like somehow they just didn't realize how it worked. But it sounds like they are going to, at least for the majority of them, where it's clear on the invoice that we are being billed for, this month or this quarter's phone and internet expenses, and where it's actually listed out. And I guess they're going to work with some of those that may have some issues on that invoice to get the language changed so that OCIO can process those. So just FYI, we already told people to submit, renewal PO requests for January, or we would, mind them to at that time. But now it sounds like we may not need to do that. So I'm kind of waiting on more from Tyler Schechter and Lisa Simpson on that. Tyler's having ankle surgery and will be out for 6 weeks starting next week. So it sounds like Lisa will be our go-to, Lisa and Shirley Lynn, for any OCIO internet issues.
Okay. And I have just in general, I have a couple, too long a story to go in today, but we have a couple instances where there were early termination fees based on communication before we entered into this agreement. And we had some significant fees assessed to a couple counties. So I'm working with Mike Shakarian and others and Jesse and I are talking about how to address that. We're working hard to get some of those providers to just discount that, because we're continuing to do business with them and they're getting more business from us. If that fails, we're going to look at helping the counties out with that so they don't have to come up with that.
Yeah, this goes back to that agreement where they had to run some new lines to some offices, and then the monthly fees for that internet service were absolutely outrageous and never seemed to work right anyway. And yeah, that was just a whole mess.
Right. You'd think they'd want to do right and just discount that.
Right.
So anyway, I've got a quick budget update. I'm still working it out. So Jesse and I actually have a meeting on, what day did we say?
Tuesday
at 3:30 of next week. Or it's
Wednesday?
before we go to the fair. It's after we go to the fair, Vicki. And eat our way through.
Yeah.
Then Jesse should eat his way through with us too. And then we can dig into the budget. But just a couple of general questions. I know one was about the endowment. So Leanne was asking about, what would be the process for that this year. I told her that it would be fine to keep. None of the endowments are currently changing their focus and their purpose. It's just kind of where they're housed budgetary wise. And so my feedback to Leanne, and I guess I'm asking for anybody to tell me if I'm off base on this, is that she can move forward with the purpose of the endowments and the process and the timing of it. And then it's just a matter of how it's processed. Correct? And so where did our where did we land on where the endowments are being housed? Is that part of our conversation on Tuesday?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's part of the conversation on Friday, is to decide where we're moving some of the buckets of money that are in regional orgs.
Okay, and so just so you guys know, on Friday is the meeting that Jesse and I are having with Roger and Robert Consitis to make sure that they understand and we understand where we all thought some of these things would be sitting and how they would be addressed. And so we'll come back to you on the budget at our next meeting.
And Jackie, before I forget, do we need to talk before Friday, before our meeting with the Workday folks on the checking account thing?
On this Friday?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not sure when, but we'll look at our calendar.
Okay.
So do you just want to tell folks what that is?
So my understanding is that there are several external accounts to the university. Athletics has a few. I think we have by far the most with our external checking accounts. And I'm not 100% sure what the issue is necessarily, but apparently with Workday, I think they're wanting to take this opportunity to have everything, actually reflected in the system versus, allowing or having external accounts. And now this isn't to say that, we are definitely getting rid of checking accounts or anything like that. That's not necessarily where this is headed. But I think it's just to get a conversation going about, why we need the accounts, how we're using them, and if there's a possibility of at least reducing the number that we have for folks that may have access to a Chase Bank or a PNC Bank where we can do direct deposits to a chart field, that sort of thing. If all the deposits that went into the checking accounts now came to the service center for processing, they'd have to hire 3 more staff just to handle that. So we have a lot of things to talk about with them, but this is just kind of prepping for the 2-year transition here.
And then Ashley, what's her name again? Shipley?
Yeah.
She's actually, I've really enjoyed my conversations with her so far. I believe she understands extension. She understands county-based operations. And she's advocating, at least in some part, with the Workday, which has a variety of different enterprises. And so there's different areas covered by different people. She's actually advocating for having one person be the extension Workday enterprise guru contact. And she's advocating for that to be her. And I think we're advocating for that to be her too. So this meeting on Friday is really about gathering, I think, having a good discussion about the pros and cons of approaches to this for county-based operations. So we'll keep you guys updated. That was budget. Any other questions related to budget? Okay.
Nope.
Stewardship super fast. Jeff, I'm trying to get on yours and Cindy's schedule for a half day.
How's that going?
Not so good. But anyway, so there's that. So we're going to have that half day discussion, and then we're looking at a stewardship workday for the ops team. And I think we talked about that being incorporated into the retreat. Is that everybody's recollection? I'm working from home, by the way. If you hear somebody yelling, it's my son downstairs.
But I talked with the fellow HR people, and I mentioned a retreat. They were kind of surprised. So I don't think we've had enough discussion about a retreat or how that's going to work or what your expectations are.
When you say your fellow HR people, do you mean
Vicki and
at the college?
No. Vicky
okay.
They're not part of that group.
I know. I was like, they'd probably be really confused, and I'm not sure I'm ready to have them.
Nor do we want them to be part of it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Really, the idea was to get all of us together for an overnight that would allow us to meet as a team, to really focus on some of the bigger issues like stewardship and preparation and fall visits and things like that. Those things are going to be on our plate over the next 2 to 3 months that we can then help the system with. And so my goal was for us to have just an overnight somewhere, but it's really going to depend on whether we can schedule that or not with everyone. So again, I think the stewardship piece would take quite a bit of that time in that discussion about how are things going with each of the types of stewards. Have we defined them well enough, for instance? What are the ways that we can, what are some additional resources or training that would be good to be in place? We could go over the year in the life of the area leader. A lot of the things that we're kind of working on piecemeal right now, a chance for the group to come together and knock some things out and think about what our support for folks is going to be over the fall and into the new year as we roll out the next iteration of the stewardship process and document. So if that makes sense to everybody, then I maybe would like Leanne and the other HR reps to be thinking about what might be a good time on all of our calendars to make that happen in October, and go from there. And if it doesn't turn out that we can find that dedicated time, maybe even just one day, but I really feel like we could use some dedicated time for this purpose. Steward, for me, area leaders, I think, is starting to really take shape. Our area leaders under Jeff's direction are, I think, doing a really good job and are starting to have some proof of concept for success stories. And then I think the part that really still needs some time and attention is the stewards that we haven't quite been working on as effectively yet, right? And so we have some that are up and running and doing well, and then others who definitely need more training, and others who don't even know what their stewardship role means right now. And then on top of that, I'm finding that some of our unit leaders, like HR, don't quite know what to do with these stewardship, and so I want to be able to help them be successful in that. And so this really is just time, dedicated time for the stewardship portion of the model, and how we support that. Okay.
You want me to talk about CVent?
What's that?
So do you want me to talk about CVent?
Yes, please.
So Jackie and I talked a little bit about CVent over the last month or so. We had a couple conversations. Basically, I still need to get Jackie a list of our the CVent relations experts from last year that helped with the pesticide applicator training. We had talked about possibly getting a merchant account set up for all of our offices and tying those into CVent, and then having, some number of people act as event coordinators for multiple units. Even if we go that way, that's going to happen before the big rush of PPT this year. It does take a significant amount of time to, one, get a merchant account set up, but then two, getting it set up in CVent takes about twice as long as it does to get the account in the first place. So what pesticide applicator training has done, they have their second account set up. So they're actually separating the merchant account that goes into the earnings funds that the counties post to versus they'll have a separate merchant account for the actual PSEP level training that like Adam Ziada's group does. So again, I'm not real well versed in the difference between all of that, but I know there is a difference. So they have their big commercial meetings, and then we have our private applicator training meetings, I guess. So short term, I think we need to work to identify some folks that are willing to do this here. to be event coordinators for PAT again, because it sounds like, and I was talking with Ashley Levesque before she left, Jesse were really involved with the conversations between pesticide safety education and Roger and Andy Londo. And it sounded like it was really Roger's push that we use CVent for this. So I think if we're going to do that again this year, it may fall on us to be the ones to push that. Because it doesn't sound like A&R is going to do it. It doesn't sound like Pest Ed is going to do it. So if we keep, Roger's wish to have this in CVent, then, probably it's going to fall on us to happen. Or we can say, scrap it and move on with our lives.
So, yeah. So there's a variety of questions that need to be asked and answered before we can decide how many coordinators we might want. A couple of things. Who in our group is a CVent coordinator? Anybody trained for that?
I am. And
Okay,
Carol
just-
is.
Yeah,
And who?
Carol.
Carol is? Okay.
Yeah.
A couple things. One is what you're saying right now, Jesse, is kind of news to me, because I thought that the decision for CVent was something that was coming from the university level, and that PSEP was chosen as a pilot for that so that's interesting. So here's what I'd like to do, Cheryl. If we could add CVent to the executive council meeting coming up next week, I'd like to clarify some questions with Roger around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, Jesse, I know we had, because there's pros and cons to having CVent, there's pros and cons to having merchant accounts in each office. And I think whether that happens within CVent or separately, that's another conversation to have. But with CVent in particular, I know, who was the person this last week that was trying to use some of its functions, and then we had another unit saying—
Julie Strasser, formerly Julie Moose.
Yeah.
She was trying to she was trying to do a mass distribution of marketing for the tax schools, and which she's done through CVent and loved it, and is actually one of our biggest fans of CVent's functionality. And then for whatever reason was told she couldn't use that function. And so,
Jackie,
did we get an update on that yet?
I ran into Jared I was asking Jared about something else, and Jesse can correct me too, but Jared was saying, because he goes, did you see that note? Because Julie had copied me and I hadn't touched it. It's basically she couldn't mail to groups of more than 500 from within CVent. They're not, OCIO is not authorized to do that, so she had to break down the groups into groups of less than 500.
So it
And
was
I
just a
can
matter of
expect-
numbers, and she's been able to do it. Okay.
I'm not
Because
sure.
part of the question was whether or not they were deciding not to support that. Okay, so that's good to know.
I'll pull that
So if we could-
information for you.
Yeah, if we could add this to our discussion with Roger, then we can.
And then Cheryl, just put this on your radar too.
Okay.
Our contract with CVent is up in January. We are renewing for 2 years. Eric has approved this renewal. We haven't signed the contract yet. We're still trying to figure out how many. We have to prepay for the registrations. Apparently with Workday, and I missed the meeting on Friday, but got some notes from it and involved in the group moving forward with the treasurer's office and some Workday people. They want to do a university-wide e-commerce platform that integrates with Workday. Now, I don't know yet if this is strictly a, not point of sale, but where you would, invoice somebody to have a payment come in versus actually having some sort of event management functionality built in. I don't even think they're that far in that conversation yet. But Eric didn't want to commit to too much CVent over the next 2 years until this new system, which may be CVent, it may be something totally different, whoever they contract with, is up and running, and deciding if we still would need CVent for our event management portion, or if the e-commerce platform can take care of some of that, et cetera. So just so executive committee is aware, CVent may or may not, even though we had this big push 2 years ago when the contract started may or not be around in 2 more years when Workday comes out. So,
Jesse,
This is where Jeff gets to say, "You're killing me, Smalls."
I have 2 questions, Jesse. So we're renewing for 2 years, but it just may change because of the Workday and e-commerce stuff. But we're going to go ahead and renew the colleges. I mean,
right. So in essence, when we have 6 months left on this next contract, we may be switching to another system, and we'd have those 6 months to do that transition. Eric just did not want to commit any more resources on this contract to CVent that we would have to pay, because we have to pay yearly. It's a 2-year, we pay yearly. So if we were to add, 100 more logins, user logins for new event coordinators now, we'd have to pay for that for 2 years. 6 months of the last 2 years, they may not get used, and that's $10,000 down the drain.
Yeah.
So, and then, and just to give you an idea, right now, Cheryl, we have, I think, 12 that have their own merchant account and have a person in that office that is the event coordinator.
12 merchant accounts.
I'll get Jackie a list of those counties and the folks that have access, and then as well as our last year's event coordinators that worked with PAT trainings.
Okay.
So Jesse, if we have that in advance of the meeting next Thursday, it's Thursday, right?
Yeah, 13.
That'd be helpful.
And then I have one other question. Does it end is it the end of January, Jesse? Sorry, Jackie, or is it the end of December?
End of January. I think it's like January 19th or something like that. It was an odd date.
So it's not a calendar year end, though, is what I was just checking. Sorry, Jackie.
No, that's okay. And then I know when we talked before with Ashley about Workday and Enterprise to figure out what she said she had some links that she could send us or some modules that she could send us to help us understand the holistic abilities of this. I don't recall getting
anything from her.
Would you be willing to send her a quick note and ask for that again?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, AL updates and support dollar updates. And by the way, one of the updates with that is I'm on Roger's calendar.
For what?
For the 5 that you asked me about.
There were 6.
6, the 6 you asked me about.
And that will show up in the executive committee meeting next Thursday, knowing who's invited.
Oh, they're already invited.
No? Brunis is on the exec. I guarantee he'll bring it up.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I just also
that's fine.
Mentioned to you that Cheryl reminded us that the next area leader meeting is scheduled during Farm Science Review.
Yeah, I know. I have to work on figuring out a date. September is looking ugly.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So we might as well add that to the executive list, Cheryl, and I'll prepare Roger to be ready for it.
Tell me, what am I?
It's the backfill and support dollars update.
Okay. Got it.
All right, we've got 20 area leaders that have backfill dollars. We have approximately 6 that have that engaged in some way, shape, or form. Understand that the majority of the area leaders were 4-H educators, and when we started this, they were headed in their crazy season. So you really want to add hiring somebody, starting somebody, and training them when you had enough on your plate to begin with. Honestly, most of those have been working 2 full-time jobs.
So what I hear you say is get ready to rock and roll.
I expect as soon as fair season's over, it's going to explode. I've started planting some seeds with some that had their fairs earlier, but I think when they have a time to breathe, they'll figure out that, one, this was not sustainable, and they need to figure out the program support.
Good.
The other thing on the area leaders, they are, they've been through the AMCP process and know all the questions that can come from that. And so far, nobody's resigned.
Knock on all the wood, everybody, right now.
And the other aspect there is the comp time issue. I'd been working with them on that, identified with a lot of them, identified it since it first came on my radar, the issue that caused the edict from Elaine. Last week's message just ramped that up.
So I want
to kind of force their hand.
That edict actually came from OSU Legal by way of Elaine. So
well, it was written in legalese, so.
But it's a good example of how we can help HR and our other units understand how we can be helpful, especially with our area leaders, to get the message out in a way. In fact, to even just do the hands-on in the areas without it being this thing.
Right. So they're working through those. I've received several questions, and we were working. It's a case-by-case basis or county-by-county basis. We're working through those. That wasn't my top priority for last week, but it became my top priority. So, but other than that, things are moving well. So, and I've started to hear some educators comment that they're feeling a little more supported, or there's some conversations I've had with non-area leaders that lead me, I see it's starting to work.
Yeah, the benefit of seeing them more often, right? In the proximity and the ability to coach. I like it.
So I think that's only going to improve. So I'm encouraged.
Well, thanks for all you're doing, especially with your one-on-ones with them in the beginning of this. I know it's taken a lot of your time, but it's super, super important. So we're going to keep, and I know they appreciate what this operations group's doing. Even though we're going to be some of the ones that are the touch points for things like the timesheet piece and the IT charges, I know that they really appreciate the communication, the responsiveness of what we're doing, and they get it. So,
yep.
Good. All right, Vicki, SAC update.
Yeah, I've been a member of the CFAES Staff Advisory Council for the past 3 years. My term ends in October, and I was wondering if any of our other staff here, as far as like HR or fiscal team, would want to volunteer to replace me for for a 3-year term. It's about, I'd say, 6 meetings a year. They do an annual retreat, and of those meetings, they try to have it in different locations, not always on campus. They come to Worcester sometimes.
Italy, right? Was it Italy?
No, or I would still do another term if that was the case.
I was trying to help you out there.
We've been to South Centers and the Morrow County office and Farm Science Review, and so it's been an interesting group to be involved. There's different task force. I happen to be on staff appreciation, which is a really nice committee to be on. You get to do fun stuff. But if you were interested in replacing me, that would be starting in October, and you can choose what task force you might be interested in being on as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you would choose to replace me that you would have to be on that staff recognition task force as well. So I've enjoyed the experience of being on it for the 3 years, and if it's kind of my responsibility to find a replacement. So I was hoping that maybe someone else might be interested. If you are, just give me a quick email or a phone call sometime within the next week or so I can let them know, because you'll be invited to our retreat in October. That's where they transition in the new members. So I need to let them know who would be replacing me. So if anybody's interested, let me know.
I would have to add that I fulfilled, I can't remember whose term on the Staff Advisory Council, and then a full term before I went off the committee. And it is a good group and helps you to understand how the college works, not just extension, gets you to thinking outside of our silo, as we say.
Yeah, and I think it helps them understand the county-based operations as well. It's a really nice opportunity at the higher levels. So I do hope that some of you will consider that, and just let Vicki know. And thanks both to Leanne and Vicki for their service on that and representing as well. So appreciate it. Yep. All right. Any other fiscal team updates? One once.
Can I just back up to that? If nobody on here is interested in it, or if you have an idea of someone that might be interested in it, if it's not yourself as well, if you could let me know that, I'd appreciate that too.
And you'd like to know by Monday?
No, I would
Friday?
say by, let's see, what is today? I've lost track of it. Today's Wednesday?
Yeah.
5th. Yeah,
Friday,
maybe
14th, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, HR team updates.
Oh, I did have one thing. Sorry.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'm sure most of you may have seen the email. Our superhero Matt Yoder is leaving.
No.
Last day is the 21st.
No.
Yeah.
When did
I got
that
that
come
bad
out?
news this morning.
There was an email?
Yeah, and
think
at
it
least
came
for
out on
Robert by
Tuesday.
himself. Robert's all by himself now down at the end of the hallway, and I'm like, and then there was one.
Did you give him a
Now,
bug?
that was technically on Terry Snoddy and the grants management side, but he really did a lot of special projects for Eric, and obviously was instrumental in getting data together for the IT billing and
anything we wanted data wise, he was like all over it.
He was amazing, and I really hope that we can when they hire somebody gets savvy with spreadsheets as Matt was.
That's a bummer.
Okay.
I'm going to go meet. He's going to
Grad school, isn't it?
grad school. Yes, he's going to be
Whatever. He's so young. He can do that
HR officer for grad school. So we'll definitely be sad to see him go. I ran into him earlier today and asked if I could have a couple hours of his time next week when I'm back in town. And he obliged, thank goodness. So I'm going to sit down and pick his brain for a couple hours on educator cost share, the spreadsheet that we have that he put together to build our model for the cost share that goes into the HRAs. I'm going to make sure that I have all the knowledge I need to.
Jesse, we should actually identify a variety of items that he might be able to share with us before he goes.
Yeah. And then, I've got a couple other things that I've been thinking about, like, I'll just, I'll add that to the list to talk to Matt about. And like, for instance, I'm starting to get questions about budget requests for next year and putting together that data that, Brian McLean had put together a spreadsheet with kind of a snapshot of actuals from county commissioner dollars plus, fund balances of owned funds, and then kind of a cost share analysis of the percentage that the county was paying for versus that the university was covering. And I'd really like to get a way to make that more automatic because it was a very manual process. I'm know how Brian had the time to do it, but he did. But
Yeah.
January, when I needed to update it for 2018's actuals, I'd really like to figure out an easier way to do that. So anyway.
So we need to figure out, well, congratulations to him and to Jesse and to Ashley. Like, at some point we got to figure out, is this a career lettering issue? Is this a nobody wants to work there issue? Or is this a headhunter issue? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we can't, that's a lot of talent in the last few months that we're losing, and really, really, really good partners. Really good partners. So we got to make sure Robert's happy, guys.
Yeah. Well, he just got a promotion, so I think he's happy.
Okay.
And
Jesse,
Jesse,
keep Jesse happy too, right? Everybody remember, send Jesse camping gear, duck with horns, whatever they are, and chocolate. All right.
Donuts.
Oh man,
Donuts.
you just like my whole day just blew up. Like, he's so good. That spreadsheet piece, he's exceptional. Yeah, he's been really good partner. So, does Brandy know?
you might hear a scream.
I'm gonna have to have a support group on whatever day I'm on campus. So, all right. Anyway, shoot. Okay. Well, thanks for that update, Jesse.
Wah, wah.
All right, HR.
We have updated a spreadsheet that we received from HR a while back with a snapshot of extension employees. We are receiving emails from Kate when new employees start, so we can add those. And slowly but surely, we're finding out through Terminate HRAs when people leave. It's not the best system in the world, but we've came up with a recognition plan for birthdays, anniversaries, condolences, promotions, awards. And I drafted an email for Jeff to include in his newsletter to the area leaders next week, requesting their assistance just to keep us posted when they know things are happening. And that this is something that we're working on to help with employee morale. So,
and I think we want to. I love that you guys are figuring out how to share that and to keep these things happening. I agree that human part of this is really important, especially these days. And so, think about how we can use the news feature for some of the recognition. Clearly, Jeff's article for the ALs, but also maybe under About, we have an employee spotlight or something that we can use to share. And then Cheryl, at some point, we don't clearly know the answer to this yet, but again, in Roger's piece, where does some of that used to be covered in the communique land?
Right.
we did ask, knowing that Jackie's going to be meeting with HR on the 14th, to again express that we would like to be able to have access to some of this information on an ongoing basis, so that we could send out a personnel update if that is their desire to receive that help from us to do that.
Well, and I need to work with Jackie on personnel directory stuff. It's fallen down on the priority list, Leanne, but some of what we talk about will affect that request.
Right.
So.
All right. Other HR team updates at all?
That's all that I had.
I don't think so.
Okay. And then we got we're doing our invite, our re-invite right now, so we're good.
When I changed the time for today's meeting from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I accidentally canceled our reoccurring 10 o'clock meeting. So if you receive a re-invite to that reoccurring first Wednesday meeting at 10 o'clock, you'll know that that's why you got it again.
So make sure you accept it, or you're welcome. No more
Yes,
meetings. But if there are any more meetings, we will track you down. Excellent. I know that took some time today, but there was a lot to cover and a lot going on. So thanks everybody for that. I hope you had a nice holiday weekend, and this leads into a quick 2 more days for you this week and some enjoyment. Thanks everybody.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
We never sang happy birthday.
I know.
That's okay. I gotta go. We're leaving the meeting.
Happy
now.
birthday to you.
Mwah.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, she laughed.
Our singing skills must really be bad.
That's the worst.
That's bad. That is very bad.
It's bad when your boss leaves when you're singing.
Bye.
See ya.